Everybody, welcome back to another edition of In the Moment with me, your host Michael. Today we have an amazing composer, musician, Daniel. He's awesome. Daniel, why don't you say hello? Tell us a little bit about you before we kind of get into it and just, ask you some questions.
Hi. My name is Daniel Chur-Leet-Zuh. Ciurlizza. Nobody knows how to spell it. Pronounce it.
That's
So
why
I
that's why
or
I didn't say the
or
last
spell.
name.
I didn't catch that, but yeah,
I was trying to be
Chur-Leet-Zuh.
sly.
That's good. It'll be on the whole title thing, whatever. Do you edit these by any chance?
No, I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay,
I
we
literally,
might
I don't. I
talk for
literally
a
am just
long
figuring this
time.
out.
We'll
What?
see.
Yeah.
Man, every time I do a podcast, they're like, yeah, it'll be like 30 minutes or something, 45, and then it's a 2-hour show.
I actually do keep mine to about 30 because I just feel like, people don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I like to keep it simple. I don't go to the whole history. I just really want to kind of get the tidbits of right now. Maybe as I progress, maybe longer, but for right now, I think simple, easy, just kind of one-on-one and just,
Yeah,
that's about the mind space that we have.
I'm with you. Well, yeah, I'm a composer. I write music for films, TV, documentary. If someone offered me a game, I'd do it. I do a lot of trailers. I do a lot of ads. That's how I kind of built my whole career. I started doing trailers and ads full time. So if we go all the way back, I've been wanting to write music for films for forever, since about 2010.
Wow.
And worked I went to school.
Hmm.
I dropped out of school to start working. I went to music school, funny enough, and yet that was not enough for me. I just wanted to get to work, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I was looking for people on YouTube to work with, like a bunch of filmmakers, and and I thought, you know what, let me just start. And so from 2010 to 2015, 16, I was dead poor and like not getting projects, but not I was part-time doing event staffing, working at
Hmm.
also working as a janitor at
Oh
a
my gosh.
gym, working at Cold Stone Creamery. So that was me for like about 6 years. And
Oh wow.
then suddenly, seemingly suddenly, I got I started to get projects. I started to get paid more and more, and it all was thanks to a lot of marketing jobs. And through that time, I was um working on sound design, musical sound design. So there
Right.
are companies out there that provide, and you might know this because of Zach, although Zach probably just plays everything himself.
Yeah.
But in music production, you have these companies that provide samples and all kinds of instruments to
Right.
artists. And so I would work with those people, and we came up with a lot of different sounds together. I started building my team up because of them. It's why now I have 15 people working with me pretty much every week. And it
Wow.
used to be every day. Um, but yeah, I mean, those 15 people,
Mhm.
we all contributed to Cinnamon. They helped me with sound
Right.
design. They helped me with a bunch of different stuff, including music. But so yeah, I went and did that, and then the ads and trailers started to happen, and then the next goal after that was doing film scoring, doc scoring full time, and over the last 13 years that has happened, and that's how we met, you and me,
Well,
on Cinnamon.
yeah, let's talk about that because to the viewers, I recently was a producer in a movie called Cinnamon. Daniel was our composer, and we just met recently, in person a couple months ago in New York. And that was such a wonderful experience, I think, for both of us because we both took pride, or I'm still taking pride in the movie.
Yeah,
And one of the things I really do love about the film is the music. I mean, the
thank you.
score is beautiful, and there are some written songs, and I do want to ask a couple of questions about that because yes, my son is a musician and he's professional and all that stuff, but he has not, scored a movie.
Hmm.
So with that being said, with your process, was it something where you were given the film during the duration of filming, or was it completed and then Brian was like, "Hey, what are you feeling?" And you felt it first, and then he would say, "Okay, I want this," or did you kind of know going into it what the feel and the vibe, and then also too, I think were you involved in? I don't think you were involved in the lyrics of the actual songs, but just the melody and the music, correct?
I was involved with one of the songs,
Okay,
La La Love, which is the end. Um, I'm sorry, not the end, but it happens a few times. This
right.
La
It's
La
kind of
Love.
throughout the movie, like a little
Yeah,
segue.
yeah. And you first hear it when they are together for the first time, the love scene. And then finally at the end credits, when they're in the car, you hear it, or
Right.
not the end credits, but the
Yes. The
actually,
ending.
yeah, it's in the
It, it,
last scene
it
and the
kind
end
of
credits.
segues into both ways, so it's
Yeah,
clear,
yeah.
and it's kind of like you're bringing it back again, full
Yeah,
circle.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's a representation of the relationship they had. But anyway, I so Brian and I have worked together for 13 years. He's one of my best friends. He's one of, a very few amount of people that were invited to our very small wedding.
Nice.
Um, he's been one of my best friends since college, the college that I dropped out of. And eh, we've been working together on short films, on ads, on like all kinds of stuff. So I know everything that's happening with him. In fact, the title Cinnamon, and Jody, the main character's story in Cinnamon, about how she got her name, is
Wow.
my story. I ate the cumin French toast, and
Wow.
my mom fed me that, and I guess viewers will have to watch the film to really understand this. But
Wow. I never knew that.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, so Brian was looking for a title for Cinnamon, and he's like, "Oh, let me just put this story in, and then of course dramatize
I
it."
love it. Love
And
it.
Cinnamon ended up the title of the film because of that story.
I love that.
So that's pretty representative of our relationship. We've been
Yeah.
in it for a long time. So that I knew that the script Cinnamon was happening, and but I didn't know it was finished until Nick from Village Roadshow contacted me, and they were like, "Hey, Brian says you want him, or he wants you to be the composer on this film.
Right.
Let's chat."
Yeah.
And for the next 11 months, Michael, I tried to figure out Brian and I tried to figure out how to get me on this film because
Yeah.
nobody wanted me.
I,
Because I didn't have any credits, I
yeah.
didn't have any credits. But it was a beautiful thing in hindsight, and during too is a lot of fun because we've always wanted, like, my main goal has always been to write music for studio level feature films.
Right.
And everything else kind of became secondary. The ads, the trailers, the money, the everything. Like, there's something really special about um just like a 90-minute film. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Or like, whatever, a contained feature film. Series are great. I love them, but there's something special about it.
Right.
And so that's been my goal for such a long time. And when it finally came to these 11 months of actually doing it, and that's not including the time that um after I was hired. Like, it was 11 months and then I was hired. And but through 11 months, I was figuring out all kinds of, like, directions and like ways to sort of figure out how to properly give this story its own world and
Right.
its own vibe. Um, we have cowboys, we have black cowboys, we have Wally, like, really unique characters, and a lot of interesting things about this film, which is what Brian is always doing.
Right.
So, um, what I usually start with, and I think I'm answering your questions as I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
describing this, but stop me if I'm not. What I usually start with is I try to figure out how to do something new, something I've never done. And my go-to thing for doing something new is buying a super cheap instrument on Amazon
Oh
and
wow.
learning how to play it for that project.
Okay.
So for this project, um, there's a scene in Cinnamon where we have a sax player, and that was also in the script.
Mhm.
And so I bought a super cheap saxophone on Amazon, and I've never played sax before. I'm not a brass player,
Yeah.
and I played it. And so I recorded that. I probably broke well, yeah, I mean I broke a lot of rules, and I hit record,
Uh-huh.
and the very first few takes in that very first week of me practicing and trying to figure out how to play this thing, all those squeaky takes.
Yeah,
Sax
yeah.
sax is such a hard instrument. That end up in the movie.
Wow.
And so what you hear when the walkers are going to the gas station,
Mhm.
that's that first week of me learning saxophone.
Okay.
Those wails, mama's coming out of the car and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So
All right.
so that was one of the first
Mhm.
sketches of Cinnamon.
Love that.
And everything else kind of follows that same process
Mhm.
where I try to figure out how to tell the story and who the characters are and how to build the world, and then sort of keep stacking ideas on top of each other and seeing what works.
Right. No, I love that. And that's something again, I'm interested too, but I've seen it where obviously you did the score yourself, but then I'm seeing videos that you post and you have an orchestra. So how
Yeah.
did you find like okay, because you're in the Bay Area, did you do that up there? Did you go to Los Angeles? How do you find an orchestra? How does that happen? Because I know my
Yeah.
son does that where he writes, he'll write something and I've seen, he's written all the parts for 27 musicians. I've seen him on stage and he's written every single thing. And then I'm like, how do you do it? And he just knows because it's in his head and he put on this whole concert and he wrote everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it blows me away how you guys do it.
I mean, it's you know you read a lot of scripts, you start to see things. You start to do the beautiful mind thing where you see the numbers
Yeah.
it's just practice,
Mhm.
man. It's not a magic thing. It is impressive when you see it from the outside. I think screenplays are impressive from the outside. They seem so simple, yet they're so riveting, and or anything that's a creative, high level creative stuff. It's just impressive. But
Yeah.
um yes, I mean I wrote every note. Um and the beauty of having a 15-person team is have a lot of um you have a lot of skill and you have a lot of talent, and you have a lot of secondary connections. So one of the people that was on the team, who is my orchestrator, and also composer,
Mhm.
he had composed music for a different film, and he hired an orchestra in North Macedonia called Fames,
Wow.
and they've been working for at least a decade or two, and um, so he went to North Macedonia,
Oh
and
my
he
God.
worked like in the same room as this orchestra and these engineers. And so I was like, "Oh, let me just go with them." I mean, how they work. How did they do? You
Right.
said they were great, and so we just went on Zoom, and there's a program that lets you stream lossless audio online, and it was as simple as that. You stream the data, they send you the files at the end of the day, and you
Okay.
have a whole orchestral session, and full of players. And we did that for everything. I I did that for a drummer who's in Chicago. I used to do that a lot with a string player in the UK. Um, there's a guitar player that played on one track in LA. And you don't have to travel for this. It's all online now.
Amazing.
It's
That's
all
amazing.
online. It's
Yeah.
why I can live in the Bay Area and work on films all this. It's why you can work from where you live as well.
Yeah, it is amazing how we do it. So let me ask you a question. Um, what is in what's in your daily routine, I guess, and what's in your toolkit for you to stay motivated, positive, and to keep going, especially right now. At this moment, we're in the middle of a strike in Hollywood, so everything's kind of come to a standstill. But how do you still maintain? What are you still doing to motivate and keep yourself going?
Well, early on, that what might have been a harder question because it was a more active thing. I feel like, so after I dropped out, the reason why it was the reason why I didn't go full time in music for 6 years is because I was figuring myself out. I was trying to figure out how to work essentially as a sole proprietor. I was
Right,
figuring out how to build a team. I was figuring out how to not waste my day working from home, which is easy to do. Um, I developed a routine over 10 years, and I think on year 6, it started to click more, and every year it's kind of an exponential thing. So now it's just, how do I the question is always, how do I keep going? And the answer is just keep going. It's kind of a dumb question and answer because, you know, how do you lift heavier weights? You just keep lifting weights and you just make them just a little heavier. And you don't really have to push yourself all that much to
right,
to keep consistency once you're already consistent. So I feel like I'm so honed in on I've always been honed in on my goals
mhm,
and what I want to do. It
oh,
just became easier and easier. And now it's super easy to just focus. And they may not happen right away and they may not happen the way I imagine them,
right,
but I know my trajectory in a way, or at least I know the goalpost. I may not know the trajectory, but I know my goalpost. So if I know my goalpost, I know that I need to do certain things to get there. And I don't suffer from um, um, writer's block anymore.
it's great. Yeah.
It's just sit down and focus. Have you read the book Deep Work?
I don't know that one. Who's it by?
Let me.
I read a lot of esoteric or books about manifestation and your goals, and I mean I'm all about that. I read that stuff all the time and I practice it daily as well. Whether I'm walking my dog or something, my mind's always thinking. Like I tell people now, even though those are strike, I don't stop working.
Yeah.
I'm still reading books. I'm still watching commentaries. I'm still doing things because I have to be ready for the call, but also for myself because I don't want to get lackadaisical and then
Right.
things don't happen. I'm like, no, I'm still doing what I need to do, pretending as if it's not okay. It just stopped at the moment, but that doesn't stop me.
Yeah.
I got to keep learning some things. So
These studios aren't stopping. Why should the writers stop?
exactly, I
Like
gotta,
just because you're not getting paid doesn't mean
yeah,
you have to stop doing what you love.
I'm still doing budgets, for stuff because I need to, make sure I'm still using the program. My mind is
Yeah.
still there. And like you, I see everything with the matrix. I literally see things like when I look at a budget, I'm like, oh yeah, here, 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 and I have a photographic
Right.
memory. And I'm sure it's the same way again, going back to you and my son with the music. You guys just know when you hear every note, and it's just there. And I'm like, okay, and that's
Yeah.
which is amazing. But that's nice to know that for you, you continue to hone your skills and you haven't let it stop you. Um, there are those moments I think us in the business we do, or at least for me, I need to sometimes just take a break and
Sure.
turn it off for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, go to the beach, take a walk, clear my mind before I can just get into it because, you know, I always have to read and watch. That's my job. So it's nice just to kind of have
Absolutely.
that inner reflection. But I'll look at that book that you mentioned because I really do take all of that. I take stock in all that, and I love those things.
Yeah. Deep Work is by Cal Newport. And then there's another book that I think I'm remembering correctly. It's called Mastery by Robert Greene.
Okay.
And those two, I know Deep Work focuses on the idea of you have a set amount of time that you can work, um and it's usually between like 3 to 5 hours for anybody.
Mm,
And you can, if you put in just like uninterrupted work,
mhm.
you will do things. You will be able to accomplish things that others who have interrupted work cannot accomplish.
Yeah.
Um,
That.
and I'm probably mixing up a bunch of books, but like there's Deep Work, Mastery, and Daily Rituals, which is also a great book.
Okay.
Daily Rituals covers what big famous people through history, what their daily routines were.
Yeah.
And something interesting that you find is they all had very similar routines, and a lot of them had alcohol at the end of the night. And I tend to skip that one
Yeah.
more often than not. Um, but what's interesting is they'll have a morning routine,
Hmm.
work for 3 to 5 hours, and then
Yeah.
not work at all for the rest of the day, and
That's
kind of
interesting.
just
Yeah.
essentially answer letters,
Yeah. Yeah.
emails, and it's fascinating because these are like high performing, super famous,
Oh yeah.
philosophers, writers, artists, and just all kinds
Yeah.
of people.
I,
And I kind of adopted that to
mhm.
my own thing.
I love that.
Um,
I
not
interviewed
working more than 5 hours essentially.
I interviewed one of Prince's bandmates the other day. She and her sister are dear friends of mine, and they actually sent me the book. It's called the 5 a.m. Club,
Mm,
and they've been doing this thing. You get up at 5 a.m.
hmm.
You start your day then, and like there's the power hour between like there's like between 6 to 7 or whatever. Like there's this hour where like you just your mind, it's like
Yeah,
you're like all blah, blah, in the same thing. Then you wind down, and it's I think it's this, I think there's a lot of concepts that are the same. For me, I said, well, the problem is I didn't go to bed till 2 or 3.
right.
And
Exactly.
that's just because for me, about 10 p.m. is when my creative juices go. And that's when I'm like, oh, I got all my energy, I got all my bam. And I'm just like, I'm wide awake. And that's my power hour. And it's so weird because that's just where my recharge happens. So, I think it works for everybody, but there
Yeah,
is that thing of like, okay, here's this really burst of energy during this time. And then afterwards, okay, do something else. You mix
yeah,
it up, whatever. And I love that. And listen, and everyone's different. I think it's great.
yeah,
Especially nowadays with everything that's going on in the world, you have to have these other outlets and find yourself.
yeah. I agree. I mean, part of intense work is intense not working. I think I think you should have other outlets because I also have this idea that I've been working with for a long time of, in order to have innovation or achieve something different in one field, you kind of have to explore other fields, um, and like almost learn the basics of a lot of different things so that you can synthesize and combine and merge and transform so that you come up with new ideas in the field that you're actually working in. And so, I love to cook, and I find a lot of different analogies to cooking and music, which are, I think that's an easier analogy, but a lot of things can be found, um uh like when I was doing business development, a lot of business development for my studio, my team. um I found a lot of things that were helpful in the tech world and how they do things, and
Right.
I just think you find a lot of new ideas that people don't usually think about.
No, I think that's great. And I think that's the one positive. And when you continue to take the time to grow and to learn, many years ago, I met Brian Grazer. He is Ron Howard's business partner for Imagine Entertainment.
Yep. Yeah.
And he had this book and it's called A Curious Mind. And I think I have it there. And the whole thing was he tries to find two people a week, completely different, not in the business,
Hmm.
and just ask questions,
Yeah.
completely random. And he
Yeah.
said, over that, he's met people like, oh my God, that's a really great movie idea, or whatever, or
Exactly.
it's just something just different. And it's just being curious. Don't ever just stop, and I think that's a beautiful thing where you just like, oh, yeah, let's try something different, outside of our norm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I love that. So okay, Daniel, where you are now and the success of cinema and everything is, where are you in your journey? How do you feel like what's next for you? What's the um what's the next thing for you right now?
Yeah. It's I mean, cinnamon was the first step in a bigger thing for me. Cinnamon, I the joke, I've probably told this joke to you, but the joke I've been going with is I've worked on 115 projects, 113 projects you've never heard of, and like two, three, four, five that you might have. Cinnamon is one of those projects, but I haven't done much that would give my name uh much of a reputation in the world of film. And that's my biggest goal. It's been my biggest goal for the last 13 years.
I love it.
And Cinnamon is my first studio level film, Village Roadshow, big, Fox Tubi, big.
Yeah.
And I'm aiming for that and bigger. And I'm I'm trying to be one of the biggest composers in the entertainment industry, um in history. I mean, why not? I'm trying to the 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 reason is I'm trying to bring, like, my goal is to bring people something really great and really different. And I do that for every single project I do. I try to make Cinnamon one of the best films. I'm only writing the music, but
Right.
I still try to make every part of Cinnamon one of the best films that people have ever seen. And that may not be the case for everybody, but that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I want to offer to the world, because, well, I don't know, because it'd be fun,
No,
you
I
know?
love
And
that.
and,
Absolutely.
and yeah, I mean, so I want to be one of the best composers. I want to be the nicest guy you've ever met. I want to be the most generous guy you've ever met. And I want to work the hardest that you've ever experienced. And I feel like if I channel that into everything I do, then my next goal after Cinnamon will happen. And that goal, of course, um is just another studio film, and then another studio film, and then better studio films, and then even indie films that tell really great stories that people connect with. And really, what I'm trying to do is just make great art that can last through many decades, if not centuries. I remember reading, I think it was Steve Jobs, the Walter Isaacson book, and I think in that book, Steve tells Walter, um, oh, no, I think, let me get this right. I think Steve Jobs was talking to John Lasseter at Pixar,
Mhm.
or Ed Catmull, the president. I think he was the president at Pixar. We might have to edit this part out. 'Cause again, I'm mixing all my books up, because I read Creativity Inc., the Ed Catmull Pixar book,
Okay.
um, who was, who was who was there for such a long time, especially during Steve Jobs' time. But so Steve Jobs tells one of the Pixar folks, my iPhones are great and all that, but they end up in a landfill. But your films will last forever. They last through
Right.
all of however long people
Yeah.
remember them. And I love that idea. I want to do that. I want to be more of that.
No, I love it. I think that's beautiful. What advice would you leave our viewers with going forward? Any words of wisdom?
Oh man, it's something I have to, like, sit with for the next 20 minutes. Words of wisdom. Let me ask you something. Your viewers are looking for like motivation and positivity,
No,
is it?
here's what I'm doing. I mean, my viewers are very eclectic, just like the guest. I
Yeah.
have people in wellness, sports, entertainment, not even in the business. Just, you know, what's the story? What have you overcome? What obstacles have you achieved? What has COVID taught us or not taught us? Like for me personally, I tell people COVID was a big game changer in wow, I look at life differently. What do I
Mm.
want to achieve? I don't want to just sit back and be complacent and be lauded. I was like, no, I have to be a go-getter. And it's these things like, all right, there's little challenges, but okay, that's great. That's a learning lesson. Thank you so much. I got it. Let's move on to the next one. It doesn't have to be words of wisdom any. It could just be stay happy. I have no idea. I try to keep it positive, and I always want people to feel that there is an opportunity, and no matter what it is, you as yourself can figure it out, and you're going to get through it, and you're not in this alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something that has I think something that's kept me going, and something I've found success through, is the idea of you are you're not working isolation. what you're doing when you do work, when you do anything, when you do things around the house, when you do things with for the people you work with, you're providing value to them.
Right.
And I think if more people think of the question, how can I help you? I think you can achieve a lot more for yourself and others, rather than if you were just to ask yourself, how does this help me?
Hmm.
And so I suppose my wisdom is, do as much as you can to give and give and give, because whether through God, universe, or karma, you will get something back.
Yeah, I love that.
And
Absolutely.
just keep giving.
I love
Just
that.
keep giving. Yeah. That I mean, that's the thing that took me from not being full time in music for 6 years to being full time. Uh, it's when I figured out that um it's when I figured out that what my grandma was trying to teach me this whole time before she passed away. She always taught me to be kind, and it wasn't until I read Give and Take by Adam Grant. Great book. It's
Okay.
about you. Do you know it?
No, I don't.
It's a great book. It's just essentially uh givers end up having more success than takers.
Yep.
But my grandma always taught me to be kind, and it wasn't until I read that book that I realized that kindness was a good business plan.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
You know.
Love that.
Um. So yeah, definitely give as much as you can, because it will come back and it'll make your community better. It'll make the people around you better.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. I'm so appreciative. If there's anything
It's
that
my
you want to plug, do so now. I mean, again, I'll put your links, your bio, etc. And really, I mean, like I said, I've listened to your music. I typed in your name, and I
thank you.
have all the channels. I can't remember if it's Tidal or Amazon or one of those. I type in your name, and it has other music that you've done, which is really great. And I was listening to that the other day,
Thank you.
um, which is really nice. So I think it's great, and I want to promote you and get you out there. And I don't see you trying. I know that you were doing. And I already know that you're going to be doing your next studio film and the next one after that. And listen, you're definitely someone I would hire. I mean, I really do love the soundtrack. I
Thank
play
you,
it
man.
sometimes, I put on in the background, and it's one of those things where it's just nice, it's mellow. And when you see the movie, and I'm not just saying this because I just did it, but it's a really, really good movie. And there are moments, especially towards the end, like, I'm tearing up. I'm like,
Yeah,
God, because it's emotional, and um, music is a big part of that. It brings
yeah.
us up, it brings us down, and you're like, oh my gosh. And I've always been that way. Music is a big part of my life. I don't know how to play it, but I love it. And so I want to thank you because, again, you're putting something out there, which is an art form, and you're right. It does last forever. It's
Yeah.
out there, and other people can appreciate it. And we never know who's listening, watching, our stuff. So, thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for saying that. That's really
yeah,
kind. I
no.
really do appreciate it. It means a lot. I mean, you say all these nice things all the time, and it always means so much when you say it. I really do appreciate it. And you send me pictures of you listening to my music, and I'm like, this makes my day, It's really
Yeah, and
great.
I was reading a science fiction script the other day, and I put on your music invasion, and I just literally had it on the background. And it was so nice because when I'm reading scripts, that's when I have to have music with no words because I'm a Gemini. I was like, so I put on a lo-fi chill or something just relaxing, and it was
Yeah.
perfect.
Hmm.
And cinnamon is one of those things. And like I was talking to Pam Grier the other day. Pam calls me all the time. I was like, oh, Pam, I got the soundtrack on right now. I'm just playing it. It's just on. It's actually on my phone,
So good.
saved.
Yeah.
It's
I
legit.
love it.
I want it on vinyl. I want it
Oh,
on
I know.
vinyl.
I know. I know. Yeah. Well, I think we have to prove to Lakeshore Records that it is a success enough to print a vinyl, or
Okay.
we'll just put in some money ourselves or something. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure.
know. My son
Yeah.
puts out vinyl. I don't know how he does. Again, I'll connect you guys because he puts out his stuff on vinyl, and yeah, you pay a price, but he does
Yeah.
like a limited run. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 It's a
Nice.
good idea. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
man.
I really appreciate it. It's really
Daniel,
kind of
like
you.
seriously, I appreciate it. And okay, one more question. What the hell
Please.
is that thing behind you? Is that an organ hemisphere thing going
What you
on?
looking at? This
Look,
thing?
there's like I got some sitar thing in the background. I got some weird organ from like 1834, but you have like Maybe come out. I don't know.
I have a lot of stories for you, Michael. This is another conversation or podcast, but
Yeah.
I bought that as a pitch. That's a Chinese instrument. It's called a guzheng,
Wow.
and I bought it at a computer store from the 80s.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really weird. And I bought it for a pitch I did for Marvel for Shang-Chi, and which I didn't get.
Wow.
But
Okay.
and this is just an open piano.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which was cool. You
These
know, it
are all
looks
the
very,
hammers.
yeah.
The reason it's open is because I get a better sound from it when I'm recording. So like I get I get these microphones on here. I get
Okay.
two of them. I get a stereo image, which just means I capture the whole room
Right.
and you hear it in a nice way.
I love it.
And yeah, you get to hear the wood, the felt
Mhm.
fabric and the little hammers, and it just sounds more intimate and louder.
No, I love that. I mean, it's really nice to be intimate and when musicians are in their element and they kind of
Oh
have
yes.
set up the way that they have it, and you just watch that, and you're like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, I remember. I mean, we have to go because I only have so much time on my show. But what I love about when I see documentaries, and I remember, like, U2 when they were doing the Octane Baby, and like they're just in a room with the carpet on the floor, 8,000 wires, and they're just recording, and you realize that's the master, that's the stuff, and
Yeah.
that. And oh, there's one more thing. I'm gonna send it to you. There's a song that Prince did called "Power Fantastic,"
Mhm.
and the band's upstairs, and like Lisa is downstairs, or vice versa, but they're in separate rooms
Yeah.
playing. They did one take. They did one take, and they go, and that was it. But everyone just had to know, and they weren't even in the same room. And
Yeah.
you're, oh my God, that's when I love when that magic comes together. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah. It really is magic when everybody is kind of in sync, and yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I love music. I love film. We just like there I think those are the two best uh arts, especially film, because you do combine music, you combine paint, costume, makeup. I mean,
right?
a writing, novel writing, you can combine everything. And this is why I love film, man. It's
Yeah,
such a beautiful medium, isn't it?
it is. It's great.
Okay, we
Okay,
can talk
Daniel,
forever
thank,
probably.
I know, me too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Everybody, thank you for paying attention, checking us out, supporting in the moment. It's all about being in a place of positivity, friendship, and kindness and respect. So, Daniel, thank you,
Love it.
and I
Thank you, my
will
friend.
listen to you soon.
Yes, thank you, my friend. All right, we'll
Okay,
talk soon.
peace.
All right,
All right,
see
bye
you.
bye.